early 1962 was my first trip to the Soviet Union. And it was in that instance that I went to Moscow University, that's where I resided, and my research project was Russian architecture, especially classical architecture in Moscow. I chose that because it seemed a little more off the beaten track than Leningrad, which was everyone's pride and joy. That was the peak of the Khrushchev period. And I was there between the erection of the Berlin Wall in early 1962 and the Cuban Missile Crisis at the end of 1962. But in the interim, when I was there, it was relatively quiet. I remember John Glenn made his flight while I was there, and I was able to obtain admission in the US Embassy to bring a group of Soviet students there, and Time magazine supplied me with a bundle of Time magazines with John Glenn's picture. And so these were Yuri Gagarin fans, but they enjoyed that experience and it worked out well. But on both ends, Berlin and Cuba, it wasn't a very good time, but it worked out. I saw Khrushchev and his whole Politburo at the opera one night. And then one morning at breakfast in the Hotel Europa in Leningrad, I saw Shostakovich over there having breakfast. I couldn't resist going over and thanking him. And he was very, very humble and pleasant. You, of course, want to know how it was that I came to GW, George Washington University. I knew no one there, but I approached retirement in the 80s. And by that time, I was leading tours to Western Europe, to China, and to the Soviet Union. And I was going to lead one. I had a full contingent already in the early 80s, in the mid 80s, I should say, mid 1980s, to Central Asia. And then came Chernobyl. And it melted away just as quickly as did the plant itself at Chernobyl. So I was looking for a group that would be going to the Soviet Union, and lo and behold, Charlie Elliott, he was a professor in political science at GW, and Carl Linden, who was another political scientist. They were taking a tour, and so I signed up for it. That was my introduction to GW. Even so, I had no expectation that I would be joining GW faculty in any enterprise. But upon retirement in 1990, my wife and I decided we would go to live in Washington. I had no contacts there, no special reason for going. But upon arrival in Washington, Charlie Elliott, who had led the tour, contacted me because I had developed an interest in Soviet law and asked me if I would give a lecture in Soviet law, which I did. And there I saw Carl Linden again, and I met the new director, Jim Millar. That was the beginning of my contact with the Institute. It was called the Sino-Soviet Institute then, nothing so fancy as the name we have now. I did not expect much beyond that, but I had further contacts from the people at GW, and they asked me if I would consider being a visiting scholar. Well, that was harmless enough. I said, sure, I'd be glad to do that. And that was the beginning of my contact. And it's been more than 20 years ago. I went to the Soviet Union twice with Carl Linden, once in 1986, and then in 1988, we were both Petrarch fellows. I enjoyed the camaraderie of the Institute people. Jim Millar and Carl Linden, we were old geezers then. We used to go to Kincaid's for lunch. Happy 60th anniversary, IERES.